So moving on, we're going to look at the Judd engines as well. So they actually entered F1 in 1980, and they had varying success in the normally aspirated 3.5 litre Formula. 10 and 12 cylinder engines have proved to be more powerful than V8s. This prompted Judd to replace the CV and EV V8s. This is the engine that Judd used in F1 in the 80s, with an all-new engine in 91 for the BMS Scuderia Italia team, who are, as you might guess, were not the best team in F1. The new 72-degree V10 engine would carry the GV name. Can't go wrong with GV. The engine was powerful, helping the team to a podium finish in the San Marino Grand Prix. Judd's agreement with Scuderia Italia ended following the 91 season, leaving the GVs to be used by the Brabham team and newcomers Andrea Moda Formula in 1992. Neither team scored a point all season, and Judd engines pulled out of Formula 1. So basically, let's see. Yeah, Brabham were often a team that struggled. Andrea Moda were notoriously bad, possibly one of the worst teams in the history of F1. So that's pretty bleak outlook for Judd in the early 90s. So this is a more interesting part about the actual Judd engine that you may not realise. So following Judd's withdrawal from Formula 1 in 92, John Judd turned to Yamaha to continue production of his engines. So actually Judd proper dropped out, but it was the same boss basically teamed up with Yamaha to continue producing engines using the Judd GV V10 as a base. Yamaha developed an all-new cylinder head and branded the motor as the OX10 for use by Tyrrell Racing in 93. Once again, Tyrrell were unable to score any points all season. An improved QX10B for 1994 boosted Tyrrell's performance as the team scored a podium and finished 6th in the Constructors' Championship. Rule changes in 95 saw the OX10C known by Judd, so they're basically updating the base engine rather than rebuilding whole engines every year. So 96, same points total from Tyrrell, although the new Yamaha OX11 Judd engine was an all-new design, so they did design a new one in 96. 96 Tyrrell switched to using it. So Tyrrell went with Ford after that, and that was the end of the Yamaha Judd partnership with Tyrrell. Now here's the interesting part, I thought. An updated C-Spec version of the OX11 was used by Arrows in 97, featuring a new bottom end with changes consisting of a revised sump, crankshaft, oil pump and water pump. The OX11C had an extremely low centre of gravity and a dry weight of 105 kilograms versus the Renault's RS09's 121 kilograms, but was underpowered and most of all unreliable. Underpowered in brake horsepower and unreliable. This is a common theme with these customer engines. A lot of them were very poor reliability in this late 90s period. Consequently, a D-Spec was introduced for the fourth race at Imola, with significant improvements in the airflow management of the combustion chamber area, which permitted the OX11D to gain 20 horsepower, which along with superior Bridgestone tyres propelled Damon Hill, interesting part, to a second place at the Hungaroring, the 11th race of the year that otherwise was pretty lackluster, with Pedro Diniz's 5th place at Nürburgring as a last high point before Yamaha consequently pulled the plug on the failing project. So you might expect Yamaha to have done a bit more, but I think with the Judd partnership perhaps they weren't throwing all their resources behind this, and it was a bit of an experimental entry into F1. Nevertheless, the last engine actually wasn't too bad. I remember Damon Hill. The interesting part is that Damon Hill had won the championship in '96, the previous year, in a Williams. But due to politics at Williams and Hill feeling like he maybe wasn't going to get the most favourable treatment, he actually jumped ship to Arrows, which was really like a strange move that had F1 journalists and fans really scratching their heads alike. However, because Hill obviously was a very good driver. You can't win an F1 World title being like a mug behind the wheel. So he did score one or two good positions. Obviously, the second place in Hungaroring. It wasn't a good year for him, but interesting that such a sort of a weak option with Team Arrows, who were definitely more towards the back of the field rather than even in the middle a lot of the time, and they were actually powering a reigning world champion. So, interesting how sometimes these obscure engines actually find their way into successful arenas for a brief time. Anyway, so that's the Judd entry in Yamaha.